to this video, which is part of a chakra series. Have you sat down and it's been suggested you listen to either a guided meditation or do a creative visualization and you simply can't, nothing comes to mind no matter what you do. Everyone else seems to be, but you're not. So of course, what does that trigger in you? I know for me, what it did was I felt a failure, I wasn't doing it right, so I kept trying harder and harder until I learned that can be actually a trauma response. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So those of you who are new, you might like to go back and look at the chakras first, the other ones, root, sacral, solar plexus, heart and throat. It doesn't matter because healing isn't linear, as you know, it goes all over the place. So you might like to stay here as we start on the third eye, which is based here and this beautiful indigo color. This is all about self-reflection, intuition, imagination, images. And it's also about the illusion that we create when we aren't comfortable with being in our intuition, when we haven't got those images. Because what happens is when we have had trauma or something happen in our lives and a childhood experience, what happens is that we cut ourselves off. We actually can't see into the future. We actually can't see our life beyond what's happening today. We feel unsafe, we feel rigid. It's just so much easier to stay here with what you know. So with this chakra, what you're going to do is you need to start balancing it, to start opening yourself up. Because when you start doing that, you actually feel your intuition. You actually then listen, but not only you listen, you actually act on it. And it creates such a different flow in your life because then you can start creating the flow that you want, the life that you want. You begin to trust those little messages that come in, those messages that you might have ignored because it goes against what you were thinking, what you were doing. Your ego comes in and says, no, don't do that, because it is literally taking you away. Or it might be that you thought, oh, I shouldn't drive that way, or I shouldn't do something like that. You later say, oh, if only I had listened to my intuition. Or there comes that time where you just know you need to phone someone, but you might put it off. But when you do phone, they go, oh, number one, I was just thinking of you. Oh, I'm so glad you phoned. That is what this is about. This is what you're opening yourself up to. Because when you learn to open your intuition and become balanced there, or use your third eye, what you do is you're opening yourself up to receiving messages. You're not just relying on the practical, everyday, material things. You're actually allowing yourself to expand open. And that's when you start getting insights, those aha moments. And particularly if you're working through childhood stuff, trauma, an unpleasant experience, something that's really thrown you, this is where you start to get those moments of understanding your patterns, because that's where the images come in and the imagination comes in, which has been cut off up until now, and you haven't known how to do that. So you can't see a life forward. You can't see a future. And I found this in my personal life. It was so wonderful when my psychotherapist shared this with me and how it then affected how I was running my business. Because I always say, see the future, visualize where you want to be, how many clients you want to have if you have a client based, or if you have a product based, how much money you want to make, the bigger house, the bigger car. I could never do that. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't do that. But there's another reason there too, I realized. The other reason was that for me, what was really important was how I felt, how I created my freedom. So it wasn't just all about the materialistic things. It was also about the feelings I wanted to have, coming to that sense of peace and freedom. So when you sit quietly, take the time, or do journaling, or see a therapist, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to open up to seeing what patterns have you created in your life. So those patterns are your limiting beliefs, people pleasing, social norms. You're not being true to yourself. You don't know how to open up. You don't trust the bigger picture. You don't trust what's coming through. So what you're doing is you're creating an illusion. So when you're in an illusion, you're staying in the past because that's where it feels safe. You're staying in this small little world and you make that your reality. But what you don't realize is that you actually don't really move forward as much as you think you are. We find it hard to heal. We find it hard to let go. So we keep going round and round and round. But what happens is when you do healing work, when you start working on it, when you start journaling and speaking it out loud and getting those insights, what you do is you start breaking those patterns. You start stepping away. You start listening to your intuition. You start trusting yourself because you have the ability to see within. You have the ability to connect with your inner essence and your inner strength and your wisdom, which is what guides our life. Until we trust that, we are being guided, we are being led, we are being manipulated. And that goes through all our lives, whether it be personal, career, or business. Because when you've been traumatized, what happens is you shut that perception down. And by doing that, you're inhibiting the ability to see the images. the ability to move forward. And as mentioned earlier, the ability to see into the future. This is when you literally feel stuck, unhappy, and you just don't feel free at all. You don't feel alive. You actually don't feel alive. So as you start working through this and you start shattering those illusions, what happens is you have the ability to see forward, to see a life, that you can create your own life. You listen to your inner compass, you listen to your inner voice, which is the voice, of course, of wisdom, knowledge, compassion, knowing. And this allows you to make sense of the world around you. You feel safe in there. You become creative. You feel confident. You have self-acceptance. You can speak your truth. So take a moment now. Just take a breath and just tune in. Am I creating my own life? Am I creating my reality? And just get a sense, yes or no. Because that is where the healing will happen. That's where the healing can happen. That is when you open up and get sight, literally sight, but it's internal sight, not only external sight. So as we come to the end of the video, I'd like you to also say to yourself, I trust my intuition and my inner knowing. My vision is strong and clear. Deep breath in. Thank you again for allowing me to share this video with you as I have the others. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. Share with someone. Love to hear your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video because it's going to be a meditation one. And like with the rest of the series, you'll have a meditation, tapping, Reiki one, just so that you really enhances your experience so you can really fully embrace yourself with your third chakra and this beautiful color blue. Namaste.